remember, because when I was your age, 8th graders called me Ted Poe. So it's Ted Poe.
Oh, okay.
And that's my name, and I'm a member of Congress. I represent all of y'all in the United States House of Representatives. That's in Washington, D.C. How many of you have been to Washington, D.C.? Few of you, yes? Ms. Rickley's been there with her students. So if you are in Washington, come by and see me, because I'm there during the week. I don't live in Washington. I live over across the lake in Atascocita. Been there for 40 years. And I commute every weekend. I fly back and forth when Congress is in session. I leave on Monday mornings, fly to Washington, and come back on Friday nights. So I have not moved there. Like I said, I commute. It's a long commute, but it's just one time a week. I've been doing that now for 12 years. And just a little background. Is what we're going to do today is, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I do, but I want to ask you some questions. I want your opinion on some things, on policy, and then you can ask me some questions, and I may or may not give you an answer. But anyway, we'll get started. I am from Texas, grew up in Texas, born here, and my grandmother, who was the most important person influenced me in my life, always encouraged me to be in public service. Serve the community, serve the public. It is a good profession. You may hear some people talk bad about people who serve in government, but it's a good profession. And she and I, she was very influential, except we never agreed on what political party to be in. She disagreed with me and never forgave me for being a Republican. She was a Democrat. And she even said one time, I'm not sure you can go to heaven being a Republican. But anyway, she influenced me to be in public service. And I was. And I taught school for a while. Too tough. I was in the Air Force. I went to law school, became a lawyer, and worked at the district attorney's office as a prosecutor for 8 years. That's the person who prosecutes the person charged with the crime. And then at the age of 32, I became a judge here in Texas, and I stayed a judge in downtown Houston, representing being a judge of all of Harris County, a criminal court, serious crimes, everything from stealing to killing, everything in between, for 22 years. And then I resigned from the bench. 5 people were shot, and I decided to run for Congress. I ran for Congress against an incumbent who had been an incumbent for 8 years, defeated him, and now I've been in Congress for 12 years. First question I have for you. How many years does a person in Congress serve? One term. How many years is that one term? Yes, it's 2 years. And judges in Texas are elected. If you live somewhere else, like New York, judges aren't elected in New York. They are appointed. Most judges in almost all the states are appointed, but Texas, because of our history, and you study our history, we had the basic distrust of the appointed system. You see, usually the governor appoints the judge, state judges, after some committee recommends that person. Be careful of those so-called blue ribbon committees. But that's how judges get to be judges in most states. But we had a distrust of the appointed system, so all of our judges are elected. And you ought to see one of our ballots in Harris County. They're ginormous, as my grandkids say. And it's because there are a lot of judicial elections. We decide who the judges are in the state of Texas. Very unique among all the states in the United States. Of course, we are unique. But anyway, I have 4 kids. Like I said, they grew up in Atascocita and have 11 grandkids. And it's great being a grandparent. 8th graders. How many 8th graders? These first 4 rows. Some say, one in the back, thank you. Some say that the 8th grade is the most important grade in your personal life. Because after you finish the 8th grade and you go to high school, you're kind of the person you're going to be the rest of your life. Your values, how you think, that's really the way you're going to turn out. And so that is why it's very difficult for 8th graders, because you're trying to, lack for a better phrase, find yourself in all kinds of ways. So God bless your teachers, your 8th grade teachers. And my wife's school teacher, she taught over in Humble for about 30 years, and she taught first graders. Okay, let me get to the point. So what do you do in Congress? Now, the only way you get to be a member of Congress is you have to be elected. What does that mean? You have to get elected. So let's say that a member of Congress resigns, quits. How does that member of Congress of the House of Representatives get replaced? Anybody know? Yes, sir.
Someone might run for it and then they vote.
Okay, someone runs for it. How about being appointed? Could they be appointed by the governor? You don't know? Well, no, you can't. If a senator, let's say a U.S. senator, resigns, then the governor can appoint the new U.S. senator until the next election. But the House of Representatives, every person in the House of Representatives is elected. And if one of them resigns or dies or whatever, they have to have an election. They can't be appointed. It's very important. It's in our Constitution that all members of the House of Representatives are elected, because we represent the people. That's why we call it the People's House. I represent approximately 762,432 people. All the representatives have to be representative of approximately the same amount of people. So how many of us are there in the House of Representatives? How many members of the House of Representatives? Yes, sir. 50. 50. Some wish there were just 50. How many do you think? Somebody else? Yes.
120.
120. I'm glad you came today. There are 435 of us. 435. And every person elected. Down the hallway is the United States Senate. Now they don't have as many in the Senate. How many are in the Senate? This is real easy. How many in the Senate? Oh, I'm so glad you came. There are 100. There are 100. 2 from each state. So that makes it easy, because there are how many states? 50. Good. 50 states. And 2 from each state, that makes 100. There's 100 senators. There's 435 members of the House of Representatives. And passed a piece of legislation, law. Our ancestors who founded our country made it difficult for laws to get passed because of their what? Basic distrust of government. That's why they separated from England. It's because they didn't like the king making all these rules, like being taxed without representation, things like that. So they made it difficult to pass a law. If a piece of legislation is passed the House, it's got to pass the Senate, and then it goes to whom? To whom? To become a law. Somebody's got to sign their name. The president. So the House passes it, the Senate passes it, and the president has to sign it. And if the president doesn't want to sign it, that's the president's right to do so. But then 2/3 of the House and Senate can override the veto and make it legislation. But the president vetoes it. So I've given you a lot of information there. My day is like this when I'm in Washington. It's very busy. Every member of the House has a busy day. We have very many conflicts in what we do. We start the morning the same way that they started the Continental Congress. And does anybody know the answer to that question? Every day starts, yes, sir.
Breakfast?
With breakfast. That's a pretty good answer. I wish. Some do start, we start sometimes that way. But the way Congress starts every day, and the House of Representatives and the Senate does the same thing every day, we start the same way. And that's with a prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Now the Continental Congress just started with prayer. The Pledge of Allegiance wasn't invented yet. But every day, we start with prayer, Pledge of Allegiance, and then we start discussing things. And then we have legislation, that's bills, come before the House, and they're debated. They're debated. All day long, being debated. Meantime, we are meeting, people who aren't involved in the debate, we are meeting in committees to determine that legislation that eventually comes to the House floor. So it starts over in the committee. I'm on two committees. Foreign Affairs, and the Judiciary. Foreign Affairs deals with all of the subjects dealing with foreign countries. And there are a lot of them. And I'm chairman of the Terrorism Subcommittee. So I have a lot going on in my committee on terrorism, because we're dealing with ISIS, Boko Haram, and many other of the terrorist organizations. The other committee is Judiciary. That deals with all criminal cases, criminal laws, immigration, border security. So those committees are taking place. Members of Congress are in the committees. They have hearings. When they want to come to the House floor and debate a piece of legislation, they leave the committee, come and debate, go back to the committee, and so we do that all day. Usually three times during the day, we vote on pieces of legislation that have come up on the House floor. We'll vote in the morning, we'll vote in the afternoon, and then we'll vote in the evening or sometimes at night. So all of that's going on at the same time. Meantime, members of Congress are meeting with people, talking to folks. Very busy day. I will say this about members of Congress. This is my opinion. Members of Congress in both parties, the new ones and the ones that have been there a long time, work very, very hard. They work long days. And contrary to what maybe some would say, media, for you broadcast journalists, most members of Congress are there for the right reason. They're there for what's best for the country. We may not agree, but most of them are there for the right reason. And I have a lot of friends who are in the Republican Party, but I have a lot of friends in the Democratic Party. And I'll say this too, to get laws passed, it takes both parties working together. And we can talk about some of those. We don't hear about those nationally because media likes to only talk about when we're fighting confusion. But most legislation that passes is bipartisan, and it's so overwhelmingly supported by members of both parties. Now, let me ask you some questions. You have what looks like a popsicle in front of you. Green and red card. Everybody got a green and red card? Hold it up if you have it. Now I'm going to ask you some questions, and this is real simple. Put them down. When we vote in Congress, we vote electronically. Okay, I've got it somewhere. We vote electronically. Behind, and the seats in the House of Representatives, 434 seats. If you think about that, try to figure out where the 435th seat is. And somebody can tell me at the end of the program, or at the end of my talk. So at the end of each of these rows, there is a little box. It's right there. And when we vote, the speaker will call the vote, and all of our names appear up on this big billboard-looking thing. Now, how many of you have been in the House of Representatives on the House floor? None of you. Looks like your teacher. That's why you need to come see me, and I can show you around. You don't ever see this on TV, which is okay. But all of our names are up there on like a billboard with our names lit up. All 435. And you can see everybody's name no matter where you are in the House of Representatives. By our name are lights. And if we vote for the bill, the legislation, what color light do you think comes on? Green. Green. There you go. Let's say that we're voting against the piece of legislation. What color comes up? Red. And there's also a yellow light there. This is my opinion. That's for people who just can't decide what to do. They vote right down the middle of the rows. They vote yellow. See? But there's a box there, and we stick our little card in here, and there are three lights there. Green, red, and yellow. Green for yes. And it shows up electronically on the, I'm going to pass my ID. I like that bag, so you see what it looks like. It's got all kinds of electronic gizmos in there, but it's also our ID. So we vote, The vote total shows on each side of the House of Representatives, the votes go very fast, and once one vote is over with, time frame, go to the next one. First vote's usually 15 minutes, the next ones are 5, sometimes 2 minutes on a piece of legislation. Move very, very fast. So you have red and green cards. I'm going to ask you questions about your opinion. I'm going to ask your opinion. I don't want your neighbor's opinion. I want your opinion. So, since we have so many journalists, broadcasters here, if you answer, if I ask the question correctly, I'll try not to ask 2 questions in one question. How many of you think that the Constitution guarantees a fair press? That's either green or it's red. There's no yellows today. It's green or it's red. The Constitution of the United States of America guarantees a fair press. And you have to vote. You have to vote here, folks. You can't just sit there. You have to vote. Nobody's grading this. I just want to know what you think. And we're getting lots of different colors in the back. A fair press. Okay, what do you think, Jim? About half and half? Mostly green. Mostly green. Okay, put it down. The Constitution does not guarantee a fair press. It guarantees a free press. Now, our theory under law is if the press is free, it's more likely to also be fair. Some who disagree with that. But remember this, when you hear about people saying, oh, that media, that reporter, that was not fair. Well, there's no law that requires that the press be fair. And we certainly don't want the government, stay with me on this, we don't want the word fair to be interpreted by government. Because government would interpret a fair press as things that make the government look good, or whoever's in power. See? You follow me on that? That's why it's got to be free, no government control. General. Because it will be fair that having a free press keeps the government out of it. If you had to have a fair press, then who judges what's fair? Who would judge? The government would judge. See? Like, let's go to Russia. I like talking about Russia because I went there before you were born when it was the Soviet Union. And they, I understand, had a law requiring a fair press. The government decided what was fair, and there's a government newspaper. Why? Because the only way you can ensure a fair press is the government runs everything. You see the difference between fair and free? That's a yes or it's a no. Raise your card. If you don't understand it, I'll tell you again. Okay. Fair press. All right. The law is you have to be 18 years of age and a citizen of the United States to vote. And we are in the process of voting. Tuesday's election day. Big day. For some reason I don't understand, the greatest democracy that ever existed, us. We have low voter turnout in the United States. Other countries have much higher voter turnout than we do in the United States. Ours is about, on a good election, presidential election, it's in the 50s, 56, 57, 58% of the voters, which means most voters, a lot of voters, not most, but a lot don't vote. You have to be 18, you have to be a citizen. Now, when you show up, one of these days, you will vote. Tell your parents to vote. And I'm not here to tell you how to vote. That's your job. You know what party I'm in, but I'm not here to tell you how to vote. How many of you do you think, this is the question, do you think when you go to vote, and you're going to vote, your first vote when you're 18, that the clerk sitting behind the desk that allows you to vote, you should show an identification that you're 18 years of age? How many of you think you should show an identification? It's green if you think you should show an identification. It's red if you don't think you should. Okay, most of you think you should show some type of identification to vote. Thank you. Let me ask you this question. You don't have to raise your card. How many of you have family members in the military? Just raise your hand. Just raise your hand. Or you can raise a card. It's fine. having family members in the military. That's great. Like I said, I served in the Air Force. I've been to Iraq and Afghanistan a lot when we were both those countries in combat, seeing our troops. Best military in the world is not the best military in the world is the United States military. I mean, they are the best ever. How many of you are interested in being in the military? Okay. Very good. Thank you. One of the things that I do, and all members of Congress, House of Representatives, and the Senate, we appoint young men and women to our military academies. So when you get to be a junior in high school, if you're interested in going to one of our military academies, and you're over at Hargrave over there, and you're a junior, if you're interested in going to one of our military academies, call us. Because we want good people, young people in our military academies. I've been to our military academies. They're just awesome. If you go to a military academy, that's great. If you want to be in the military and don't go to the academy, that's great too. But like I said, we have the best military ever was, because I've seen it in action. All right, now let's talk about border security and immigration. These are questions I want your opinion on, okay? How many of you think that we have a secure, whatever this means to you, a secure border? It's green if you think we do. It's red if you don't think we do. Hold them up. Now you got to vote. You have to vote. Nobody voting yellow here. I would say most of you say we do not have a secure border. Thank you. All right, now we're not talking about immigration. Immigration is different than border security. Immigration is allowing people to be into the U.S. Border security has to do with securing the border for everybody. Drug cartels, trafficking, gun runners, all that. Border security is different. Okay. How many of you think that we should then build a wall? Just build a wall. Yeah. I don't care. Make it as high as you want it to be.
Build the wall.
20 feet. 40
Build the
feet.
wall, save us all.
What'd you say?
Build the wall and save us all.
Build a wall and save us all. Okay. Hold them up. I didn't get the looks very well. Now this is good because it's about half and half. Somebody tried to vote 3 times. You can't vote more than once. I'd like for everybody to vote, including the 6th graders. Okay. Most of you think that we should, about half and half. I think about half and half. All right. How many of you think that we should, anybody that wants to come into the U.S., they can just walk into the U.S.? So we go the opposite of the wall. I'm saying we should just let everybody in who wants to come in because they're escaping persecution and the drug cartel. Most of you say no. So maybe something halfway in between. Let me see the hands again, the red or green, on how many of you think the border is secure. How many think the border is secure? We have some green ones in there. We have mostly red. Mostly red. Okay. I've been down to the border a lot, 15 or 16 times to see people working on the border, and it's everybody working on the border. We got the state, Texas Rangers, DPS, local sheriffs, Customs and Border Patrol. Everybody's working on the border, trying to keep people from coming into the U.S. Now I'm going to ask you a real one, but I think is a difficult one. People that are already in the U.S., disregard criminals. Disregard people who are criminals. They're from some foreign country and they've been arrested, they're charged with stealing or killing or whatever. Disregard all the criminals. People who have committed no crime. But they're in the United States already, and they are in the United States already illegally without permission. Does everybody understand the question?
Yes.
Yeah.
How many of you think that we should have those people go home? Raise green. And those of you that don't think we should, raise red. Oh, good. I like this. It's about half and half. maybe just a few more green, maybe not. I'm not a pollster, but I would guess probably in the United States of adults and politicians, it's about half and half. It's about half. I'm going to pursue this a little further. Assume people who are here without permission are not sent home. Okay, half of you said they should be sent home. Assume that they're not sent home. Should all of those people be required to come forward and identify themselves in the U.S.? Should they come forward or should they not come forward? Okay, most of you think they should come forward. All right. Thank you. I appreciate your vote. It helps a lot. Okay. How much time do I have, Kim? Where's my teacher? Over there.
9:43.
Okay, I'm talking too much. We have time for a few questions. Ask a question. You can put your cards down, if you will. And if we have, those of you who have questions, I'll let you ask a question. Now, may or may not ask. Yes, sir, back row. The question is, I haven't met the president. The question ought to be, has the president ever met me? Yes, we have both met each other. Yes, I have been to the White House. Pieces of legislation that I was the sponsor of had passed. And as I told you, the president has to sign them. Well, the president, I was invited to the White House. I met with the president. I was very good friends with President George Bush. Like that old. George Bush. So I've met him and the older George Bush as well. So I've been to the White House. I've met the three presidents. Those three presidents. I've met Bill Clinton as well. So anyway, yes. Yes, sir.
As you may know, FBI has reopened Hillary's case. Do you believe she should be charged?
I believe they should investigate. The question was, do I believe Hillary Clinton should be charged? I believe they should investigate her. And if the facts are warranted, turn that evidence over to a grand jury. And let a grand jury, I know this gets real legal on it. The grand jury should make that decision, not the FBI. If they have evidence, turn it over to the grand jury, let a grand jury of citizens make a determination whether she should be charged or not. But don't just stop the evidence. If they have evidence, turn it over to them, let them decide. Good question. I hope I didn't offend anybody. Yes? Do I want to be president? No, I want to be governor. Doesn't every kid in Texas that grow up want to be governor? I want to be governor of the state of Texas. Yes, ma'am.
If we were to build the wall, how much would it cost?
Okay, the cost is how would we start over. Her question was, how would we pay for the wall? Well, we would have to come up with, well, thank you for giving us back. I need it next time in Washington to vote. We would have to come up with the money some way. To answer your question, I don't know. I don't know. I want to ask this question too. Well, I get to it. Y'all know the question. Yes, sir. Then I come down here. Anybody else in the room over here? Okay. Yes.
How deep is our country in debt?
How deep is the country in debt? $20 trillion.
Jesus Christ.
20 trillion. You'll have to look up how many zeros that has. 20 trillion. That's a lot. 20 with a lot of zeros. I was in a speech on the House floor once and put all those zeros on there and had to get a different chalk number so I could put the extra zeros on there. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that the immigrants should go back to their foreign country?
Do I think that the immigrants should go back to their foreign country? I think that the criminals should go back to their foreign country, and I think that people that are in the United States should only be here with permission. So we have to figure out what to do with the people that are here. And I'll tell you up front, I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer because we have all kinds of different circumstances. But criminals, you bet, send them out back where they came from, and I don't care whether they're here legally or illegally. If you're a foreign national, you have no right to stay in the United States if you commit a crime. We don't send all of them back like we should, though. I'm talking about the criminals. Yes?
What is your opinion on Donald Trump's comments on women on the country?
I don't approve of what he said on those issues at all. I think it's offensive. I'm going to try to get people who hadn't asked a question. Yes, sir?
If Donald Trump builds the wall, Would you tax Mexico to pay for it?
Okay,
Yes.
there's no way to tax Mexico to pay for it.
It's an army over there.
Why don't we just tax their imports then?
Well, you could tax our, okay, you're talking about taxing the imports that come in here. You know, Texas and Mexico Mexico is a leading trade partner of Texas. Did you know that? Its number one lead partner of Texas is Mexico. All right, that's a good way to think about it. Now, if you were in Mexico and Texas started, or the United States, started taxing whatever they brought in, sent into the U.S., what would you do if you were president of Mexico? No, what would you do?
Probably stop sending it, like decrease the amount of stuff we're sending.
Decrease it? Or what's another answer? What about Texas goods going to Mexico?
They would tax them.
Start taxing those. So that's the problem with the concept of taxing imports, because the other country does the same thing. They retaliate. See? So, real quick, free trade means that you cut down the barriers of taxation. So one country sells to another country, that country sells to them, and you don't have taxes. And those who want to tax imports always is retaliation. Import from that other country, export, goes to that country, is taxed as well. That's the dilemma. So, good question. But that's what happens. Yes, sir.
How secure do you think the border is from illegal weapons and drug trafficking?
I do not think the border is secure at all. I mean, I've been down there. I've seen people crossing into the United States. And the problem, my opinion, the problem, folks, is really the drug cartels. The drug cartels are the only people making money off of a weak border system. They're bringing everything in the United States, and everybody coming into the U.S. nowadays, they're gone are the days when people just come in. They're all paying somebody to come in. You know who they're paying? They're paying the drug cartel. You hear about Central America and all those people coming into the United States from Central America? That's because mom and dad down in Central America are paying some drug cartel to get their kids into the U.S. It's awful, but the drug cartels are making the money. Bringing in drugs, people, guns, trafficking of children. What I mean by that, that is for illicit activities. Drug cartels are making the money on a weak border. So I don't think we have a secure border. I really don't. Yes, sir. What we need is, is a secure identification where people can cross back and forth into Mexico, but have a secure identification and go home. The people in Texas can go to Mexico, and people in Mexico can come to the United States, but not immigrate into those countries without permission, but have a secure identification, similar to what I just gave you, which I think is a pretty secure one. All right. You just tell me to stop whenever I have to stop.
We can
I
wait two
talk
more,
quickly.
and then we're gonna do a photo.
Okay, I'm sorry I talked so long. Yes, sir. I was a load master on the C-130, cargo plane, 70 to 76. Journalism, broadcasting.
Do you think that we should have control over Mexico like we do with,
It's all right.
Puerto Rico?
Puerto Rico. Okay. Interesting question. Puerto Rico, people in Puerto Rico, how many of you think they're citizens of the U.S.? Green. If you think they're citizens, if you don't think they're citizens, red. That's good. Very good. People from Puerto Rico are citizens of the United States. Puerto Rico is a commonwealth that is controlled by the United States. They have all the rights of all Americans. They're just not a state, but they are citizens. Well, it's a commonwealth. Technically, it's a commonwealth of Puerto Rico. It's a unique contract we have with Puerto Rico came after the Spanish-American War. No, I don't think Mexico ought to be a state in the United States. I really don't. I do think we ought to work with them a whole lot better than we are. Personal opinion here, maybe I shouldn't go into it. We spend a lot of time talking about countries bazillions of miles away. We should be dealing with our neighbors better. That includes Canada and Mexico. And of course, I think Canada, Mexico, and the United States and Texas, those four countries, should form a partnership. got it. We should control the energy in North America and compete with the Middle East. But I have a real concern about the fact we don't work with Mexico like we should. They're our next door neighbor. You know, they're not our enemy. They're our neighbor. So.
We can end with, what do you drive in DC?
Okay, I'm sorry. I could talk to you all day. I really could. I know you got to go to class. All right. When I went to Washington, I took my vehicle to Washington with me. I never had been to Washington since probably I was in the 6th grade when I was born. And so the first time I went to the White House, I'll tell this story, then we'll be through. Went to the White House, George Bush was president. Normally, when you go to the White House sends a van over to the House of Representatives and picks up members of Congress, and we ride over there and they shut down the streets and red lights and all that, about 6 members at a time. But I called and said, I'd like to drive my vehicle over there. Can I drive my vehicle? Yes, you can drive your vehicle, but you can't park on the White House grounds because of security. Fine. So I park at the end of Pennsylvania Avenue, and I walked up to the White House Secret Service guard guy and show my ID, and I'm supposed to meet with the president. He said, okay, you can, but today there's nobody coming except you and these other members of Congress who aren't here yet. You can drive your vehicle up here. And I said, do you see what I'm driving? He looked down the street, saw what I was driving. He laughed and he said, yes, you can bring that vehicle on the White House grounds. Now, I drive a 1998 Wrangler Jeep with 35-inch tires,
Oh, that's nice.
oh, 6-inch lift.
Oh,
I have a Flowmaster on the back. I have 6 headlights in the front. Never know if you'll see deer in Washington, D.C.
Oh.
And I have a bumper sticker on the back window of my Jeep that says, Texas is bigger than France. And it is. So he said, yes, you can bring that up here, but park over to the right where the journalism folks, the media folks are. And I said, okay. He opened the pearly gates there for me, but I always got that right and left thing mixed up, so I didn't drive over there behind the White House. I drove over in front of the White House and parked my Jeep right in front of the White House. And every time I went to see President Bush, I parked in that same spot, right in front of the White House. You've seen it. And of course, it ruined the photograph for everybody out in front trying to take a photograph of the White House. So the last time I was there to see President Bush, after President Obama got elected, but before he took office, so during that November, December time frame, I drove over there to see President Bush. I go in the front door. He's walking across the lobby. He stops. He says, Teddy. He calls me Teddy. I appreciate it. You don't do that. But anyway, he said, Teddy, did you bring that Jeep again today, or did you drive that Jeep again today? I said, President Bush, I always drive that Jeep. He said, let me tell you something. That Jeep of yours has an oil leak. And now there's an oil spill on the front of my driveway. It depreciated the value of the White House. You better get that oil leak fixed before President Obama gets sworn in. I said, yes, sir, I'll do what I can. But I never got it fixed. But anyway, that's what I drive in Washington, D.C., a 98 Jeep Wrangler. It's not very congressional, but it sure is Texas. Thanks very much. Y'all can